Have you ever been part of a small team that was just amazing? Everything clicked, and then the team got bigger, and poof, the magic just vanished. Well, the reason for that probably isn't about strategy or process. It's about something way, way older, our ancient social brain. Today, we're going to dig into why our brains struggle so much with modern work, and more importantly, how we can start working with our biology instead of constantly fighting against it.
So let's start with that big question, the one that keeps so many leaders up at night. You've got this perfect team, right? They're creative, they're collaborative, they're just firing on all cylinders. And then you add a few more people, and suddenly, it's like the engine seizes up. It just stops working. So why is it that growth so often seems to kill greatness?
And you know, this isn't just a vague feeling people have, it is a very real phenomenon. Take Tracy Camilleri. She runs this big leadership program at Oxford, and she saw it happen right before her eyes. They had a really successful group of 35 people. Everything was going great. They decided to add just 5 more people to the mix, and that was enough to break the entire formula. All of a sudden, people stopped mingling, little cliques formed, and that special something, it was just gone.
So what happened at Oxford wasn't some weird one-off event. It actually points to a really deep fundamental conflict between our basic biology and the way we've decided to structure our entire work lives.
You see, for the last 100 years or so, we've been taught to think about our organizations like they're machines. You know, these perfectly engineered clockworks where people are basically just interchangeable cogs. But that whole model, it's fundamentally broken. Why? Because organizations aren't machines. They are human communities, and they run on the messy, ancient, and deeply ingrained rules of our own biology.
So if we really want to understand why our modern organizations often struggle, we need to stop looking at management textbooks. Instead, we need to start looking at our own evolutionary history.
Just take a second to think about the sheer scale of time we're looking at here. For 99.9% of human history, we lived and survived in tiny little hunter-gatherer groups. These massive corporations and organizations we work in today, they're a brand new, frankly kind of weird experiment. And it's one our brains just haven't had nearly enough time to adapt to.
So the bottom line is this. Our social software, the very wiring in our heads, is built for a small-scale world. It's like we're trying to run an ancient operating system in a super modern environment, and it's absolutely no wonder we keep seeing all these glitches.
Okay, so what exactly are those ancient limits hardwired into us?
Well, the work of an anthropologist named Robin Dunbar gives us a surprisingly precise blueprint for our social world.
And this is the magic number. Professor Dunbar discovered that 150 seems to be the natural limit on the number of meaningful relationships any one person can actually manage at a given time.
And this number isn't random. It's literally dictated by the size of our brain's neocortex, the part responsible for complex thought. Once a community gets bigger than 150, something interesting happens. Information just stops flowing freely, trust starts to erode, and the group naturally begins to splinter apart into silos.
But it's not just one single number. A better way to think about it is like ripples in a pond. We have these different layers of connection, and each one demands a different amount of social energy. Right at the center, you have about 5 people in your inner circle. Then it expands out to 15, then 50, and finally out to that broader community of about 150.
Now, this is not just some abstract theory. Real-world leaders like Bill Gore, the founder of the company that makes Gore-Tex, he figured this out intuitively. He made a deliberate choice to structure his factories into self-governing units of no more than 150 people. He knew that was the key to maintaining that feeling of intimacy and personal accountability.
So we have our magic numbers. But what's the actual glue that holds these social groups together? Well, it's not a mission statement, and it's not a memo. It's something way more primal, our own brain chemistry.
If you look at monkeys and apes, they bond by grooming each other. And that physical act releases endorphins, the brain's natural feel-good chemicals. Now, we humans have evolved what you could call social grooming. Things like laughing together, singing, telling stories, sharing a meal, they all trigger the exact same neurochemical response. They make us feel connected, they make us feel safe.
And here's where it gets even more powerful. When we do these things in synchrony, laughing at the same joke, singing the same song, or even just rowing a boat together, it dramatically magnifies that endorphin release. It forges this incredible, powerful sense of unity.
Get this, a study on the Oxford University rowing team found that when they rowed in perfect synchrony, their pain threshold, which is a direct measure of endorphin release, literally doubled compared to when they rowed alone. And they didn't even have to put in any extra physical effort. That's the power of moving together.
Okay, so This is all fascinating, right? We've got our ancient brain, we have our magic numbers, and we understand the chemistry of connection. But what do we do with all this? How do we actually use this knowledge to build better places to work? Well, the first step is to understand our brain's powerful automatic shortcut for building trust. It's a principle called homophilia. It's really just a fancy word for that old saying, birds of a feather flock together. We are fundamentally wired to seek out and trust people who seem like us.
So what does like us actually mean in practice?
Well, you can think of these 7 cultural pillars as a kind of social barcode. Whenever you meet someone new, your brain is subconsciously rapidly scanning these pillars, looking for a match to answer one simple question. Are they one of us?
And the data on this is crystal clear. The more of these pillars you share with someone, the more you instinctually trust them. And this whole process happens automatically, often way below the level of our conscious awareness.
You know, the most successful and innovative companies out there, they don't try to fight our biology. They lean into it. They actually design their structures to work with our social brain, creating these small, interconnected communities where trust and collaboration can just flourish naturally.
So in the end, it really all comes down to this choice. Are we going to keep trying to engineer people like they're just cogs in a machine, or are we going to start designing our organizations to actually honor our biology? By understanding these ancient, powerful forces that shape us, we can build human tribes where people don't just show up to work, but where they feel like they truly belong, and because of that, they thrive.